Hi, JC here. Salute to you all. Hope you're having a wonderful day just like we are here at West Coast Connection. Real quick, before we get to Scott Burnstein, part one, we'd like to give a special shout out to our friends at Casinos in Motion. They are our newest and latest promotional partners. What you're seeing right there is Club 818 last week, actually. They do corporate events, private games, friendly games, and it's just a great, unique venue. At the end of the video here, you'll see a little vignette from them. Thank you, and enjoy part one with Scott Burnstein.
When they write the history of organized crime in Detroit, one of the chapters will be about the new mob that surfaced in the latter half of the 1980s. They are young Chaldeans, the offspring of Catholic Iraqis who immigrated to this country over the last few decades. The young Chaldean racketeers make up only a small segment of Detroit's Chaldean population of some 60,000. But their acts of crime and violence have cast a shadow much larger than their actual numbers.
Several hundred who fancy themselves as gangsters. If they don't blow you away, they may blow away your property.
This is the front porch of a house in the predominantly Chaldean section of Detroit's north side. The Chaldean family that lived here fled after a dynamite blast blew out the windows. A few blocks away, a Chaldean-owned auto repair shop on 7 Mile Road is back in business after a stick of dynamite left a crater in the floor of the service bay. Last January, a state police narcotics team raided this house in Detroit's Chaldean community. They arrested Salam Daniel for possession of a small amount of drugs, plus 18 sticks of dynamite, 4 of them primed and ready for action. Last week, as Daniel and his girlfriend appeared before Reporters Court Judge John O'Brien, federal alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agents showed up with arrest warrants for Daniel and his lady friend. Both were taken into federal custody for possession of explosives.
Tonight, the details of Operation Shadowbox, a dramatic sting operation that uncovered a weapons and drug trafficking ring in El Cajon and revealed a criminal connection between the Chaldean community in East San Diego and the Mexican mafia.
Federal agents say they've taken down a drug and weapons trafficking ring. It has ties to San Diego's Iraqi community and a major Mexican drug cartel. El Cajon police say the group operated from a Chaldean social club on East Main Street. 60 people associated with the club have been arrested. Police say the suspects were selling drugs, guns, and improvised explosive devices, and they were also connected to the Chaldean organized crime syndicate.
The syndicate began in the early 80s in Detroit, Michigan. Crimes associated with the syndicate include murder, arson, weapons, narcotics trafficking, money laundering, counterfeiting, racketeering, alien smuggling, and armed robbery. Chaldean organized crime has historical ties to the Sinaloa cartel and the Mexican mafia.
Police say the suspects got grenades from someone in the Mexican military.
Yeah, I tell you, Scott, I appreciate the hard work that you do shedding light on the Chaldean crews out of Detroit. You know, for those who don't know, Scott, can you tell the audience how the Chaldeans operated back then, including the ones I was involved with, and then also how they evolved?
Chaldeans are, I would say, it's different than it was when it started, when it was much more hierarchical and structured, where it was built more like a traditional mafia family. That's how the Iraqi Christian organized crime apparatus was built here by Lua Crawi, the Hammerhead. Probably get it from you guys because you guys have a knowledge of it. But for people that don't know, you know, it's very unique and it's very extreme. Like, you know, I call it like OC on steroids. It's like the Italians, but 10 times more intense.
Hey, salute to you all, JC here. Welcome to West Coast Connection. I'm joined with my co-host McCallie, as well as Scott Burnstein. He is a famed historian for the mob, especially the mob out of Detroit, although he knows about a few other things as well. And we're going to have him here for the next hour or so. Anyhow, without further ado, let's get to our guest here, Scott Burnstein. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having me. In the last week, it's been reported that the reputed mob boss of Detroit, Jackie Giacalone, has been held in contempt of court in his civil tax case. And the judge in his case, U.S. District Court Judge George Stee, is threatening to throw him in prison for 2 years for refusing to pay his taxes for almost 2 decades, and being quite indignant when asked about why he's not paying. This current tax case, I think, was filed in 2017. He's yet to pay a cent in this case, which is towards $1 million of back taxes.
Woo.
He admitted that he hasn't paid an income tax, or I don't know if he's admitted it or it's been revealed that he hasn't paid an income tax since 2004. He's in a precarious position right now because not only is he's now being held in contempt and has to pay that money back, and he's being splashed on the front page of the newspaper here in Detroit. But there's another issue that's actually probably a more pressing issue that's being kind of lost in the shuffle here, that the feds have found thousands of dollars of money orders going to him in the last year that he refuses to account for, and won't tell the judge who these money orders are coming from. And the judge is saying that in addition to a $15,000 payment to start your reparations, you need to give us the names of all these people that have been giving you money the last year. So it looks like they're daring him almost to build his own RICO case against himself.
Yeah.
These are all people giving him money, whether or not they're organized crime figures that are paying him tribute, or they're businessmen that are giving him money that could be perceived as extortion. Either way, it's kind of a blueprint for a racketeering case. So the civil tax cases, it appears, could be just the tip of the iceberg, in a potential criminal case coming behind it. And I don't want to get too crazy, but I do know that for quite a while, the feds in Detroit have been hot to trot to bring down Jackie Giacalone. And there are some other past issues that I know they're looking into, cases that don't have statute of limitations, stuff that happened in the early 2000s that could be rearing its head.
You know, call me crazy, Scott, but when I was doing my weed running and selling, and when I was doing casino nights back in the day, I always made sure to have some type of above board income that could vouch for what I was earning, and at least appear to have me getting some kind of legit income. You know, why would a boss make such a mistake like that? It blows me away. That a boss would not have that covered, that he would not have something that would explain his income.
You're absolutely right. And in Detroit, the family's always been a picture of diversification in terms of all these guys having a ton of legitimate businesses and legit income streams. Jackie's been an outlier. Jackie's whole life, he's lived without a legitimate income stream. I think in the 70s and 80s, he had I think he had official ownership of his dad's headquarters, Farm Fresh Produce, down in Eastern Market, but he's never had any type of business portfolio. He's always refer to himself as a gambler, doesn't take a salary from any company. It seems like a no-brainer to get a friend of his or an associate of his or an underling of his, put him on the payroll somewhere. I had heard that there were times I had heard that he was on the payroll at Tringali Sanitation. That obviously proved to be false. That's his brother-in-law, Joey the Trash Man Tringali. I don't know. It seems like a recipe for disaster that he's now running into. But you know, looking at his track record, he's only served 5 years in prison. He's 71 years old. He did it
So far, that's a giant W in that world and in that life. Only having 5 years by the age of 71.
And he beat a RICO. He beat a RICO in 07, which is virtually impossible to beat a federal RICO.
So Scott, what's going on in the mind of Jackie the Kid? Does he think he's just above the law? Did he forget to do this or something along those lines? Why would he be doing this? And why would he not have any kind of reportable income?
I think that Jack Giacaloni's behavior here is very on brand for his family. You know, the name Giacaloni is pretty synonymous with mob activity. His uncle, Tony Giacaloni, was the boss of the Detroit Mafia for 50 years. His dad, Billy Giacaloni, was a capo, street boss, underboss. Guys that had been in the spotlight and in the crosshairs of law enforcement dating back to the 40s. I just think Billy and Tony before Jackie, you know, they didn't feel like the rules applied to them.
Right.
Traditional protocols of day-to-day life in our society weren't for them to adhere to. They get a free pass, you know, because of the fact that they're scary individuals that are unafraid to, you know, flip the finger to the man. So, you know, he comes from a lineage of people in the mob that are very, you know, subversive to the government or, you know, not people quick to follow the rules and have a problem with it. You know, they tell you to go jump off the bridge. So,
or they'll even throw you off the bridge.
Or with Jackie, I think it was just kind of, you get lulled into a sense of security because you've been able to tiptoe through the landmine so long, and not trip one and blow yourself up. I think the 07 trial the RICO trial that he beat in 07, you know, bolstered his confidence and kind of emboldened him. He wasn't being called out on any tax issues. Before 2017, he hadn't been called out on any money issues since the early 90s. So it had been like almost 30 years where you're just not getting heat in that regard. It's a little bit head scratching that he thought that he could get away without paying. And when you have the name like Giacaloni, even if it's not, you know, a couple years into your scamming, even if it's in this case 20, 30 years later, they're still gonna be paying attention and you're still gonna have a target on your back.
At this point of his life, he got too comfortable and he behind the wheel, and you always got to be looking in that rear view. And that's where he lost touch with what's going on in the present.
You read through the case and you see the actual accounting, and I use that, I put quotes around that. You use what he was trying to tell the government, and just putting on his tax forms. You know, I made $22,000 last year, but that he just puts a number. He's got no He's got no backup, no
He's not
receipts, no.
using any measurable success
Yeah.
level. Like,
If you look at what he's admitted to making over the last 10 years, one year it will say that he paid $50,000 in gambling. Another year it said he paid $65,000 in gambling. Another year it said he made $80,000 in gambling. And then another year it said he made $20,000 in gambling. And he's not saying he's making a lot of money.
you know, Scott, in my experience, from what I've seen with my friends, including M. Cali, the FBI, the DEA, any of the feds, they don't ask questions in court that they don't already know the answers to. Same thing with local prosecutors as well. And that would include asking who the folks are that have been paying him money, how he's been earning money, or whatever. Chances are they already know what's going on.
Let me piggyback off that, what you just said. They're going to know anyway. These names that the judges are asking for, believe me, the feds know who these names are. They know. They know who these people are. They just want him to go on the record and say who these names are.
Right.
I heard some other people speculate that there might not even be people sending him money, that he was sending himself money, that he thought that somehow using money orders was gonna veil what he was trying to do in terms of disconnecting himself from the financials. I don't even understand what his end game was here with those money orders, but he was getting, weekly money orders for the last year. And there have been people that have, like I just said a second ago, speculated that it's not a group of people. He's saying in open court that it's a group of people that are giving him money because, he's in dire straits and they're just trying to help him out. And then when the government said, well, tell us who these people are, he says, oh, I don't want to tell you because you're going to harass them. There have been people that have floated the idea to me that there are no people, that it's just him sending himself money.
So, Scott, can you tell the audience the source of Jackie's case, the source of the issues here in his latest situation?
Jackie's tax case is spawning from a family tragedy that got a lot of publicity. His daughter is in a coma or is in a vegetative state and has been since 2013. She lives in his living room or his family room. Yes. They're paying for 24-hour medical care for her. She's not, I don't believe she's ever gonna get better, but they have decided to keep her alive. And she had a bad reaction to a peanut allergy, allegedly back in 2013 when she was in Las Vegas. So when I heard back in 2013 that he was bringing her home and they were going to have her in their house with private medical care, I immediately knew that there were going to be problems on the horizon because he wasn't going to be able to show how he was paying for that.
Right.
That's at least $250,000 a year, I'm thinking, at least to keep 24-hour medical care like that. So the feds were eyeing that from day one as a way to nail him on a tax case. And they hit him 4 years later. And I think that a lot of the publicity from that, even though people were not connecting the dots until just recently, there was a lot of reporting back in 2013 around here about Chantel Giacaloni's case without anyone saying who Chantel Giacaloni's dad was. And then just a month ago, I believe that this entire situation right now with him being threatened to be jailed is coming from a settlement that they were able to receive. Sorry, not a settlement, a jury verdict that they were able to receive in April. The Giacaloni family was able to receive a $30 million compensatory judgment from a jury trial in Las Vegas for negligence in the emergency medical care that she was given after her allergic reaction. And I guess the ambulance that had come to get her was ill-equipped. They didn't have some equipment that was required by either federal law or Nevada law. They didn't have those things in the ambulance to treat her with. So that $30 million verdict got a ton of national publicity. People Magazine and New York Daily Post, New York Daily News, LA Times, Miami Herald. And frankly, I didn't understand Jackie's posture there. He was in interviews with the press and giving the press pictures of him and his wife and Chantel. When you're doing interviews with People Magazine, kind of doing a victory lap that you just got a $30 million verdict, and you're a alleged mafia boss who owes almost $1 million in taxes. I don't know how smart that is. I don't think it was a coincidence that, a week after that verdict, the judge is calling him into court being like, all right, you just got $30 million. Yeah. It's time to start paying what you owe us.
What I'm thinking is they keep her alive because it's probably in her name, and they probably threw the sympathy card out by the pictures, trying to get the public behind him.
Yeah,
that would be my.
Yeah, they were doing a lot of fundraisers, and I mentioned a couple minutes ago that they were getting covered by the local media. Local media wasn't saying who Chantel's dad was.
Right. And that probably goes to the level of control that I would imagine the locals, the guys.
Yeah, I believe so. And to that point, when Chantel's verdict came in April, and you had all of these major news outlets reporting on it, crickets from the Detroit press. Nobody in the Detroit media reported on that verdict, even though the media in Detroit 7-8 years ago was reporting on the initial medical issues, where they were reporting on the fact that she was in a coma and had a allergic reaction to a peanut, and that there was all these fundraising measures back in 13 and 14, but they ignored the verdict. And it wasn't until the Detroit News came out with a big front page story last week, putting into light all of Jackie's problems with the government right now, that they added the context about Chantel and the 30 million. But I've had people, Jackie's a lightning rod, just, for people to understand his reputation in Detroit. Not beloved, definitely respected, semi-feared. Wasn't a tough guy like his dad or his uncle, but was someone that I don't think he was someone that you wanted to cross. I do believe he's got bodies, all alleged. Has never been charged or indicted or had to go to trial for any murders, but I do know the FBI looks at him as a suspect in a number of gangland slayings, both where he took allegedly part in to make his bones back in the early to mid 80s, and then some other murders that took place in the 2000s when he got into a leadership role. So again, it has never been charged, has never been even outed publicly by the FBI in any statements as a suspect. I've reported that he's a suspect. There are people that have strong opinions about him. He has been being groomed to be the boss for a long time before he became boss, had been being groomed. There was a lot of people that resented that he had been kind of tapped when he was in his 30s, that he was going to be the next boss. There were a lot of people that had strong opinions about that. The political forces at play in the mob in Detroit has always been blue collar, white collar being Tocos and Zerillis, blue collar being the Giacalonis. And a lot of the white collar folks didn't love the idea that Jackie was going to be given the throne. So he's just someone that, I guess you either love him or hate him. There's a lot of people that don't love him. And some of those people have speculated to me, kind of like what Mr. McCallie just said. Some of those people in Detroit have speculated to me that the reason they've kept her alive all this time was strategic, and that they were gunning for this verdict, and they felt like with her alive, it would have been a lot easier to get this verdict, and
Sure,
maybe that plays a role. And I don't know. It makes my stomach turn that she's being. I'm not going to say I was friends with Chantal Giacalone. I knew Chantal Giacalone. Like I said, we weren't friends, but we had a lot of mutual friends in common. I'd been out with her out on the town a couple times, maybe 3 times. I hung out with her in a social capacity, in a group of people. And I wish she can find peace. I don't think she's finding peace right now, being a vegetable. And I just have said a lot over these last couple of years to people that I don't understand why they're keeping her alive. She's never coming back. And the response I got from some people was, Jack's keeping her alive to get the verdict.
Thank you for joining us with Scott Burnstein, part 1. Part 2 will be coming out in a couple of days. Real quick, I just wanted to send a salute and a God bless to Dennis Griffin. Dennis Griffin was a true crime author and a law enforcement officer for many, many years. He helped Ori Spotto write his book. He also wrote a lot of other great books about the mob. We had the pleasure of talking to him, McCallie and I, a short time back. Unfortunately, he got sick and passed away in the last week. So, I just want to say personally, the few months that I did know him, I've talked to him quite a bit, and he gave me a lot of great pointers on authoring books and doing other things as well, which I'll certainly utilize down the road here. Anyhow, again, shout out to Dennis Griffin and his family. God bless him and his family, and thank you for all the help that you provided us, Denny.